You're watching Fanboy Versus with your hosts, JD Church, Nicole Hale, Chris Triplett, and Chris McFeely.
And you are watching Fanboy Versus. I am your host, JD, joined this week by Chris McFeely and Nicole Hale.
Hello.
Hi.
Chris Triplett read Batman 17, and he was so distraught that he sold all of his earthly belongings and moved to a monastery in Tibet. So we wish him well.
I thought you were going to say he jumped off a cliff. You
oh
get
no!
It? Because if you read the comics,
but no, he did move to Tibet. So
that'll do it.
We wish him well. We hope that works out for him. So, yeah. Anyway, he's out this week. So, he'll probably be back. He's going to buy it all back. He'll have to pay twice what he sold it for, but...
He's going to realize that he doesn't look good with that haircut.
Yeah, the bald. He's like, orange is not really my color. Yeah. Do these come in green or blue, maybe?
He's a fanboy. It's black or nothing,
right? Yeah, that's right. It's got to be all black. Preferably trench coat in style. Anyway.
That's biased against fans.
It's true, but it's biased.
True, that doesn't make it not a hate crime.
Oh, I missed you guys. I'm so glad that you had a show last week without me. I appreciate you carrying on and hosting for us, Chris, and them making you talk throughout most of the show. I got to watch and catch up today, but it was great. It's a good show. So, good job. Now I feel like I could be gone more often, and Chris McFeely could host more often in my stead. So. Speaking of Chris McFeely, what is it then that the news that happened that we should talk about?
Well, I don't know. I mean, before we get on to the comic stuff, there was a very important thing that happened this week, which was...
The meteor?
No, I mean, that happened. You know, the Russian Superman baby did come to Earth this week. But no, I was referring to...
Red Sun is now going to be a thing in 20 years?
Watch out. No, it was that very holy gentleman who stepped down from his position this week. You know, a figure at the
Joe Quesada retired.
There's a figure at the head of a lot of controversy and shocked millions by
Dan DiDio left
retiring
DC?
From his position. No, I am, of course, referring to the fact that Jeff Johns has announced he is leaving Green Lantern.
Oh, God, no.
I wasn't actually talking about the Pope, and you kind of stepped on a joke there, JD. Thanks for that.
No, because the Jeff Johns thing is way bigger than those guys. No, that's why they might. That's
stepped on the joke by making it not be about the Pope.
No, I was really trying to guess. No, okay.
Yeah, but you didn't know what I was. See, this is what comes without rehearsal, listeners.
Yep.
Try and ad-lib this shit. You see where it gets you.
You can guarantee that Fanboy Versus is done without a rope. So
Jeff Johns announced he would be stepping down as the writer of Green Lantern this week.
And the masses rejoiced. This is what happens when, like, a creator stays too long, I think. You know what I mean? Like I love Jeff Johns, and he's cool and all, and he took a character that, you know, by all rights had been dead and gone, and revived them and made them cool, and destroyed another character that people liked in the process, and has relegated them to, like, the third string of a book that hardly anybody reads, Kyle Rayner. But I think that, you know, he's done a lot of great work, but it just seems like that was like, it's like New 52 should have been when he stepped aside. Now we're like a year and a half out. Now he's finally like, okay, yeah, 20 is going to be my last issue. Like, you could have just.
Well, the thing is, I personally like where it's going, but have they said who's replacing him? I missed that.
No, it's all mystery right now. I mean, the fact is now it's not just him. All of the Green Lantern writers are changing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, and these guys have been writing Green Lantern for quite some time anyway. Tomasi and Bedard have been writing the other Green Lantern books for years as well. It's a big change. I mean, I don't know so much about New 52 standing out as a point in time where he should have left. I mean, what he was doing with the characters was still happening at the time with Sinestro and everything. He had stuff set up from the end of. I mean, he had a direction. He did have plans, and as I've said many times on this show before, like at this point now, where we are now. It's not a bad time for him to leave or anything because the Green Lantern stories have degenerated to the point where, as I've said many times, they're about the cosmology of Green Lantern. They're never about the characters anymore. They're always now the next huge big event. I mean, I was going over the Green Lantern books with someone there a little while ago, the graphic novels they would need to read. And I realized, do you know how many graphic novels account for the Green Lantern between Blackest Night? Now, we all know how long ago Blackest Night was. And the New 52? There are 2 books. There are 2 graphic novels.
Whoa.
That collect all the Green Lantern that took place between them because it was 2 big events. The Brightest Day, Search for the Entities, and the War of the Green Lanterns.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, but maybe that's the thing. It's like Green Lantern has become so inaccessible. In that sense, there is so much backstory and so much going on, and it seems like that was part of the point of the New 52 was to chuck the luggage so that it could be accessible again. And Green Lantern, all 3 of the Green Lantern titles seem to be more so than most of the other books.
More so than any other book.
Really, any. I mean, you think of it, yeah, I mean, Batman or anything. I mean, there's no...
The Batman, Snyder's Batman doesn't trade on what came before it. But Jones's Lantern is just picked directly from...
And that's why I'm saying, it's like, it feels like that's such a heavy carryover from the previous universe that it didn't take advantage of bringing new people in, or bringing in fresh and new ideas. We're still stuck with these, multicolored, lantern ideas. And I tried. I mean, I love Green Lantern. I really tried, New 52 I was reading everything at the beginning and then eventually cut it all. I mean, that's why I say it's like I'm not getting down on Jeff Johns at all. The dude revived Green Lantern.
Whatever his Green Lantern has turned into now over time, the importance and the significance of his Green Lantern can't be overstated by any measure.
I don't want to call him a Bendis, but it's similar in the sense that where Bendis took Avengers and shook it up and revived it and made it something interesting again, and then hung out too long and it became about people eating breakfast. It's like Johns took Green Lantern and revived it, made it important and interesting, and then it became a book about rainbows. So, it's like...
Well, Johns always had new ideas for Green Lantern, though. There was always, whether or not it was always just a big event about the cosmology for the sake of it, which it was, but there was always something new happening on Green Lantern. There was always a sense of a story being told, whereas, post-heroic age, Bendis' Avengers has just been limping along.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's why I say, I don't want to make the full comparison, but I think in essence, it's kind of that same thing. It's a similar thing to me. Where it's like, sometimes when a creator has been on a book a long time, it sometimes feels too long. So, I mean, obviously he's got a lot of stuff going on. He's getting ready for JSA. He's, he's still doing Aquaman. So he's got plenty on his plate.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be exciting to see all new creative teams come on Green Lantern. Get some fresh, we're going to get some new ideas. We're going to get some fresh ideas. We may get something completely different. So... I'm all for it because, like I said, I love Green Lantern, but there's some variety with your green ham.
I think though, green. I think that it's he versus Bendis' Avengers, just as the other comparison of someone who's been on something for a comparable length in recent year, in a time whenever that doesn't really happen. Jones's Green Lantern is still one where I'm going, oh, Jesus, what happens next? You know, who do you put on that? It's quite hard to imagine this Green Lantern without him, because everything that has defined Green Lantern for so long now has been a product of Jeff Johns' world. The fact that the Corps even exists at the minute is the product of Jeff Johns' revamping of the Green Lantern universe. Never mind all the different colors or anything. Like it's
well,
the
thing
idea
is, it depends. It also depends on who you talk to if that's a good idea or not. You know?
Yeah,
some people
true.
loved it. Some people just absolutely hate it. But, you know.
Well,
No,
I
it
don't
seems to be a very marketable idea.
I don't think it's any coincidence that we get an announcement a week after, saying, the week after one announcement we get Jeff Johns is leaving, the week after Firestorm is canceled, and that means Dan Jurgens is available. So, just saying, we could see, Green Lantern fighting Starbreaker, and
It's starring Booster Gold.
guest starring Booster Gold, and they're gonna fight Starbreaker and the Dimension, and
I have no idea.
Wind Thinker, and I love Dan Jurgens.
Thinker.
JDR video's still frozen.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, but Jones's Green Lantern has been quite like Bendis' Avengers in the sense that he's the reason we got a film, and that
was
film
shit.
is the reason we've had this cartoon. You know what? That's just not. I could, but I'm not gonna. Just I'm trying to focus on the good things here. The reason that film existed at all, and a lot of the ideas that it put forward were from Jones's modern reimagining of the mythology.
Is that a good thing, though? I mean, come on. Again, like I said, don't get me wrong.
I just said it. I'm just using it. It's like this is how influential Jeff Johns' Green Lantern.
I love Jeff Johns. I love his Green Lantern, but man, it's this whole big cosmology thing that destroyed the film.
I look at the cartoon and I'm like, really? I was amazed that the cartoon felt it necessary to go Red Lanterns out of the gate. I really was. Yeah. I was like, that's whenever, but that's just the vague purist in me. Not that I'm any kind of purist for DC or anything. I get a little rankled whenever I see other media adaptations immediately leap up to doing modern day stories. It's like, you know what? Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes as a cartoon, you exist in the now. And you did cover the first 10 issues or so of Lee and Kirby's Avengers comic from the 60s in good order. But there really was no need to do Secret Invasion for your second season. There were 40 years of other Avengers comics to work your way up through before you immediately jumped up to adapting a modern popular comic into your cartoon. And it's like they seemed they were moving towards Civil War already as well. And I was like, there's a million other stories you could be doing that you don't have to jump up to be doing Secret Invasion and New Avengers and all.
That was like 10 years ago, though. I mean,
Secret Invasion was 5 years ago. I didn't see an Avengers Defenders War. I didn't see a Battle for Olympus. I saw a terrible version of the Korvac saga. I didn't see Avengers Under Siege. I didn't see anything from the Busiek Perez era. I didn't see a.
But maybe that's them changing, though, in the sense that we're seeing this conversion where the cartoons maybe are trying to play off of more current comics and catch up with current comics. So it's like so that they're a little more synchronous. It's like, oh, did you like this? On your TV, get the trade.
All I know is I'm gonna miss the cartoon. It's gone.
Yeah.
Getting good.
I watched it, but
I am not very behind on the second season, but I'm going to watch it all when it's over because it'll be over soon.
Well, I mean, overall, like I said, I think Johns has done good things, for Green Lantern. He definitely brought, Hal Jordan back at the cost of Kyle Rayner, and he's, definitely done awesome things with. Not that Kyle Rayner did anything interesting, but
He's just exploiting the fact Triplet's not here.
Yeah, and Brian listening later, where he'll be like, but no, Kyle Rayner's just fine. He's a perfect backup quarterback. Anyway, American thing. Anyway,
I know what I did. Yeah.
So, all right. Any other news?
Yeah. So, well, fare thee well, Jeff Johns. Yeah. Anyway,
Godspeed,
I don't think that your time
not
on
busy.
Green Lantern will be. Yeah, not that you're not going to be busy or anything, but I don't think his time on Green Lantern will be looked back upon and frowned at.
Oh no.
You're saying he's ending after issue 20, right?
Yeah, issue 20 is like the last big
part
thing.
of the Wrath of the First Lantern.
Okay, so the Simon story. It's only 3 issues.
Yeah, 17, 18, no, well, for 17, 18, 19, and 20, yeah, 4 issues, yeah. But Simon will just be going over to Justice League of America.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know what's gonna. I mean, presumably this story will bring Hal back, and then whoever comes on next will have Hal to work with, and Jones will still be able to work with Simon over in JLA. Okay, well, there's only really one other piece of news that I've noticed, and this is a rough one, all right. So, I think it must be a good 2 weeks since we last had some sort of ethical, sexual, or racial controversy, tearing.
I think we've actually gone 3 weeks. I think we've gone.
Oh my God! Well, then this one's an actual.
Is this what I think it is?
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, come on. It's not like we couldn't mention it.
No, we do need to. It sucks.
So, we all remember that that Superman Family Adventures is ending.
Yes, boo.
Yeah, boo indeed. But I speculated that it might be ending to make way for a new Superman book that might be targeted more at readers of all ages, which might be a little bit more in line with the film that kids will be seeing in cinemas this summer. And that seems to be accurate with the announcement of the release of Adventures of Superman, which is another one of DC's digital-first books. They do a bunch of these digital-first things. Injustice Goes Among Us, Anime Call Me Girls, Legends of the Dark Knight, Arkham Unhinged, Batman Beyond Unlimited. These things all come out digital-first and are then collected into $4 print editions that include 2 digital issues. So, Adventures of Superman is going to be there. Superman answer to the Legends of the Dark Knight one, which is about popular creators telling Superman stories, free of continuity concerns or need to tie in with one another. Just popular creators telling Superman stories. And the first issue has been solicited with a story by writer Orson Scott Card. Now, Orson Scott Card, you may know as the author of the Ender's Game series of novels. He also wrote Ultimate Iron Man for Marvel a few years back. He is also a noted bigot who actively campaigns against gay rights and has advocated the armed overthrow of the government if they allow gay marriage to occur. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. So, something of a furore has sprung up over the fact that DC, a fairly gay-friendly company, who makes, who is the only one of the big two to publish a comic with a gay lead, Batwoman, and just in general, since the advent of the New 52, be just gay-friendly, to publish work by someone who actively dedicates their time to anti-gay efforts. And it has many stores, well, I don't know about many, but several stores have said they won't be carrying the book in protest of DC providing him work. And there have been polls and boycotts and open letters, this, that, and the other. And it has raised the question, and DC has responded to it saying that they are essentially separating the creator and his work from his views. And that has raised the question that a lot of people are tackling across the internet, which is, can you enjoy the work? Can you separate the man from the work? And that's the thing. So, what about you? What do you guys think?
I think it's difficult.
I could do it. I've done it with several writers and musicians. Just because I don't like them doesn't mean I don't like their work. I mean,
Well,
if you think about it, most of their work is fantasy, so you've got to separate their real life, and what their creation is.
I think the litmus test is replay, and I think this got discussed. This was something that came about in a unrelated but yet related news story that popped up about this shop owner in Oregon or Washington. I guess I'm sorry, in Washington, that denied his cake service to a same-sex couple. And there's a lot of going back and forth about it, and whether or not legal charges and this, that, and the other. And the question came up: well, if this was a race issue, how would you feel? And I think that has become like my new litmus test. It's like if you're going to say that, okay, replace the fact that he's railing against same-sex marriage and gay rights. Replace that with a race issue. Replace it with he's saying that about blacks, and then ask yourself how you feel about it. And I think in that respect, it's I think there's a line. I think that there's a limit to how much you can honestly support someone's creative work outside of their views. And I think that's a modern issue. Like, if you're reading a book by a dead guy that's not getting any money for it, that's not as big of a deal. But when it's someone living and breathing that's going to take the profits and use their free time to rail against something, that's the big thing. I think that's the line. I think that's the line for me. I don't feel good giving money to someone that is then going to turn around and use that money to rail against something that I feel strongly about.
That's the big thing. I mean, if he was just somebody, to me anyway, if he was just somebody who held these views, and that was that,
sure.
I mean, he would still be a terrible person.
And I think,
but it would just be something that he thought, and it's unlikely to affect a Superman story, certainly. I mean, there have been a lot of points people have made, not points, but I mean, it's kind of, people have made, maybe he's perhaps not the best candidate to write the ultimate expression of truth, justice, the American way, and acceptance for everybody and everything, whenever he feels the way he does. But the fact is, he does sit as a board member of the National Organization for Marriage, which, is something that actively campaigns against gay marriage. So by that, that's me buying this is me putting money in his pocket that he can put towards the active suppression of rights for people.
It's like, and I think the difference is too is like there's certain issues that like go too far. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that, I'm unapologetically an atheist, and I can read and enjoy stories by devout Christians. That's not a problem. That's they're expressing their views. Now, if they're a devout Christian and they are, like in this, doing this preservation of marriage and railing against, same-sex rights and things, okay, well, that's a line, like that's a line. Would you
read a comic if they paid Fred Phelps to write it?
Right. Yeah. It's like, that's a line, Yeah. Just in this, and I think that's like a free market thing. It's just in the same line, like if that guy didn't want to read a comic by someone that was extremely pro-gay rights, okay, that's fine. Don't buy their book, I'm not saying this guy should go to jail. I'm not saying that, whatever. I'm saying, like, for me personally, I can't buy that book.
I'm not even saying
see, I think Tricky made a good point here. You cannot hire anyone because of their beliefs, their race, whatever. So it's just up to the consumer who goes and buys a product. They cannot hire him because of what he believes.
Sure they
can.
But
you have the right to buy it or not.
It's a little bit different when you're hiring, like, creative people. Like, it's not like he's filling out an application and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Bigot. We're not going to hire you because you're an asshole. it's a whole different thing. So is that right if he was applying for a job somewhere? Sure. But he's not. He's a creator. He's a property. He's a personality in that way. And so it's not exactly the same thing.
I mean, people have said, and Tricky said it here.
But he's still applying for the job, though.
No, he's not applying for the job. It's a contract.
Presumably went to him. They called upon him to write a story for them, right. Or they sent out an open call for stories. Maybe I don't know how it went. I mean, Tricky says here, and it's something people have said, and it's a valid sentence in isolation. Is like, surely you can't refuse employment to an individual based upon race, creed, or belief. And is it? I know. I mean, it's something he believes, but is it a capital B belief? I mean, it's one thing to say, "Oh no, you're Christian, we won't allow you." No, you're a rampant bigot who actively funds an organization that suppresses rights to people. I mean, would you? It's like getting someone from the KKK to write a comic, an extreme example. But I remember a story, wasn't it, that the KKK wanted to sponsor a stretch of interstate or something, wasn't that the story? One of the organizations sponsor an area and keep it clean and whatever, they weren't technically not allowed to because they're a recognized organization, but I don't remember where it was, but like the local government renamed the stretch of road the Rosa Parks Highway, something like that.
Nice. Yeah. It's a little bit different. We're in a little bit, again, it's like if you're talking about you're applying for a job to work for a company, and that has nothing to do with it, like you're not a personality, you're not an entity, then no, they can't do that. But if you are working for a company, any company, and your views and ideas are associated with the company, yes, they can they can fire you for those things. You can be fired for having views that, the company feels are negative to themselves, right? So
and DC have actually sacked creators in recent memory for things like that.
Sure.
Who was it? Chris Robertson was writing. I think it was a Cinderella series under Vertigo. I'm just going to look up the details while I spin randomly here. And he published. I think he tweeted it, if I remember right. That he didn't think he didn't think DC had ethics based on its publishment of Before Watchmen. And hey, what do you know? Last issue, that Cinderella thing didn't happen. What else? Dwayne McDuffie. I found the article.
I mean, think about Dwayne
McDuffie was dropped from writing Justice League for posting candidly on the DC message boards about his working relationship with DC.
Well, that's a little bit more incorporate, but let's talk about who. There was a radio personality here in the States. That referred to a basketball team of black girls as being, nappy-headed, and he was fired for that. That's yes, your views can affect your employment, depending on what level of employment you are, and creators who are creating products who are then identified with a company. I think the company has not only a right but a responsibility to try to maintain their views. To me, this seems very contrary to DC's current views, and it's a little bit of a head scratcher. They're not going to get my money for it, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to buy anything from the company. I certainly see where people could go that far. I could see where it's not going to, but I could see where people would go as far as to be like, well, you know what, DC, you're not going to get any of my money if you're going to let.
No, that's someone,
but I don't think anybody will get. I'll go far enough to say that I'm not buying this book. I probably wouldn't anyway because it's
likewise.
Superman.
I wasn't planning to buy it, but I'm like sort of super double plus not buying it now.
I'm actively not buying it.
No, if I was going to, I wouldn't be. I mean, I did stop purchasing things based upon that when I discovered that these were his beliefs. Now, there's some there's talk going on in the chat here, and this is a valid point. Does that mean that writers and such, our employees, should disclose their beliefs prior to being employed? You know, and Grufflock has said in the chat here that that's a privacy issue. And if those beliefs begin to affect the work, then they need to be addressed. And I think that's valid in that. We're probably not going to see Card's beliefs actively affect the work.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think anybody's worried about that. You know,
I don't think anybody should have to reveal their views before they work.
No.
But
I mean, this Card publicly chooses to be.
But if you make the choice personally as a creator to make your views public, you
live with the consequences of the.
You reap what you sow in that respect. And free speech, free speech is different here than it is there, first of all. But, the way our free speech works here in the States is that it extends, in like both directions. It's like if I say something that's offensive to you, well, fuck you, sorry. You can say something offensive and that's fine. So that's how it works here. So,
freedom of speech does not guarantee freedom from retribution.
Not freedom. It doesn't guarantee freedom from offense is the thing. But yes, it also doesn't give you the retribution as well. So if you say, well, I hate your face, and you're like, well, okay, well, I'm not going to buy your comic books. That's how it works.
That's the retribution
And
element.
You can't say, well, you can't not buy my books because I hate your face. That's discrimination. No.
No,
that's
not.
That's free markets.
That's it's like you get. I mean, we're doing a podcast on the internet, so I'm going to assume that some of our listeners may be familiar with the way the internet tends to work. And free speech is one of those big ones that everybody throws on. It's like, you can't disagree with me, you can't hate that, sorry. And I'm like, look, I don't even live in America, and I know that's not how that works.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech does not guarantee you freedom from retribution, whether that retribution is somebody calling you an asshole,
right.
Not buying your books, or coming around to your house with a bat.
Right. Now, again, it doesn't mean the government can't do anything about it, per se. You know what I mean? Like, the government's not going to step in and say, I'm sorry, you're under arrest because you called so-and-so an ugly face. But, it does, in turn mean that someone can be like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to buy your book because you said I was an ugly face. And because my friend Ugly Face is very mad about it.
I'm not even saying DC should pull the story or anything. It's dumb. I would like to believe, I would really like to believe, and I guess we'll find out when it happens, but I would really like to believe that this controversy will not... what happens with comics is controversy usually causes sales.
Yeah.
I would like to think that the inverse will occur.
Yeah, I know. And that, going back to that cake dude, that ended up being the case there too. Like, tons of people turned out to support this guy, which is sickening. Yeah. But it's okay because that cool Ace of Cakes guy from Boston is like going to do the women's cake for free. So
comics
awesome
are a somewhat more liberal medium than cakes, though.
Well, yeah. But anyway,
comic creators and comic fandom tend to be liberal.
But not to get too political, but I mean, I challenge you again. Like, if the issue,
are you asking for the challenge?
If the issue is about gay rights and things, ask yourself, if we replace gay with race, how do you feel? Does it make you feel icky? Then it's probably one of those things that's not a good idea. So I like that. Someone said that the other day, and that's like sticking with me. I don't know if that's the right answer.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it is.
I'm not. I don't pretend to be well versed in all these sorts of things. All I know is what I feel in a given situation. I don't pretend to be well educated when it comes to these sorts of scenarios because I've never had to face many of them head on or anything like that. And I worry sometimes that when you do that, there's a false equivalence. Perhaps you get the same thing about male and female roles in fiction and whatever, and women's rights, and if you swap man for female, it doesn't win. I worry if there's a false equivalence in swapping gay for a race or something like that. But it's like you say, it's a kind of a base test.
Yeah. I'm not saying you should do that throughout. I'm just saying it changes the question enough to kind of make you think about it, you know? So, anyway.
I'm pretty sure there must be people whose work I have enjoyed that I would really hit if I knew them in real life.
Yeah, and some of it is, and that's why I say, like, knowingly. You know, and that's why I say, like, I probably don't. It's not like I actively research every creator that I read to make sure it's okay. They don't give money to anything that I hate. Okay, good. You know.
This is why sometimes following your creators on Twitter is not the best idea.
I kind of find it fun though, because there's definitely some I agree and disagree with.
Oh
like,
God, yeah. I mean,
I love
control arguments in the wake of everything that's happened. Like I'm like, keep on preaching there, Dan.
Yeah. Whereas for me, I'm kind of like, oh, Dan. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, so it's because I'm like on a little bit different than that. But even like, another Dan Jurgens, sometimes is a little more like conservative on some issues than me. And I just go, wow, that's great. I still love your books, dude. And that's why I say it's like, I think there's a difference when you have like a difference of opinion on something that is truly like an opinion issue versus like a rights issue or something like that. Versus when you're talking about basic human rights, when it's just like, do you spend more, spend less, or whatever? You know what I mean? It's like that's kind of a mundane thing.
Tricky has just pulled out a rather good comparison. Sometimes you hear someone like Mark Miller, and yes, you love what he's saying, and then you read Mark Miller comics, and it's like, oh, why do you hate everything that I like in comics? Why are your comics so filled with bitterness and twisted when you seem to have such a right head for stuff?
Yeah, that's what sells. So, anyway, well, that's interesting.
Well, that's a deep one. That's a deep one to start the show.
Dug right in there, man. Let's do fun. Let's do fun stuff. Is there any other fun news or anything? Or is that
I got nothing. No, that was all I had.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully Nicole has ponies or something we can...
I don't have killer ponies this week.
Man.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's like I guess I would say that ponies could be fun, except they apparently are like killing kittens and shit.
They're killing kittens and ponies.
Good Lord.
I still am shocked that happened.
So here's my little pony. Oh, look at this cute kitten.
They throw it against the wall and it goes splat. Oh, God.
Lord.
I'm like, really? In front of three little kids?
It was probably fine.
It was actually a water balloon. It was actually a furry water balloon. It really wasn't a kitten. So. All right, well, what do you have then?
Okay, I've got a couple things to mention here. The first one is the new Secret Avengers. Now, for all you people out there that like the Avengers movie and you wanted to see some more Hawkeye and Black Widow, here's your chance. Especially if you like Hawkeye. So, basically there's this new villain. I guess it's Revere. Is that how you say it, McFeely? Revere?
I think it's
Reverie.
I think.
Yeah. Reverie? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you actually have to read this whole comic to understand what's going on, and then you'll still be confused. But it's interesting to say the least. Basically, it's a story from a point of view, 3 different points of views, I guess I could say. So you got the point of view of Hawkeye, you got the point of view of Nick Fury, and of the bad guys. And basically, that's at the very end. But Hawkeye's being tortured by some really cruel stuff. Being tortured, but he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know where he's been. He can't say anything, even with truth serum. And so you come to find out how he's involved with all of this. Again, it's one of these comics you just have to read to the very end and you'll have more questions. But it gets you so interested because you don't know who's a good guy and you don't know who's a bad guy. And so you're playing that game of, cat and mouse. Now, is Nick Fury a good guy or bad guy? You don't know. Is Hawkeye a good guy or bad guy? You don't know. So it gets you going.
The basic hook of this one, we've talked before on this show, is about how the Avengers books have identities again. Mm-hmm. Avengers in Avengers, Illuminati in Illuminati in New Avengers, And we got this going on over here in Secret Avengers. Now, these are the secretest Secret Avengers yet. Because this is taking its cues from Secret War. Not the original Secret War from the 80s, but Bendis' Secret War from back when. With the whole mind wipe thing. I mean, these Secret Avengers are so secret, they don't even know they're on the team half the time.
Yep. They don't even know who they are. But you do find out that Black Widow is a fan of pineapple coconut scones.
Wow.
But there is one line in here. There is one line in here that won me over, and they were talking about Hawkeye's old costume. And then they also were talking about, hey, Nick Fury, didn't you used to be, and then they blacked that a little out, but he's supposed to be white, right? So there's some funny little moments in here. So yeah, I think it's a good start. That, like I said, were you confused at the end, McFeely? Like, who's who?
I don't know, I was so much confused, but it was a good, solid twist and an interest. I mean, it when it comes to these characters in particular, I mean, they do address it. They do take it head on in the fact that these characters in particular would take particular umbrage with actively volunteering for a process that has their memories altered for the purposes of the security of these missions. But they are given, they are told something, like they are going to be given a shot at something. It's shown as a blanked out memory, so we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
That is enough to convince them to do this, whatever it is. So it's not like they're doing this randomly, you know. And these are guys with enough dirt in them and dirty histories that there will be big thing, and these are two heroes who carry grudges as well. So I mean, I'm not saying I don't believe that there's something out there that wouldn't be enough to convince both of these characters to do this, but it's definitely an odd one, but it's a strong, if complex hook that's going to need a little bit more exploration. But it's also the sort of thing as well where it's like, this feels like a short-term hook, so I'm not sure quite what to expect out of this going forward, you know? It's got Hawkeye and Black Widow and Black Nick Fury in it, so it's definitely trying to tap the movie crowd again.
And if you want to see a really good torture scene, here you go.
Well, I was just thinking earlier today.
What Hawkeye comics?
I was wanting to see a good torture scene, you know. In a comic.
Let's just say it involves a lot of tentacles. There you go.
Seen enough hentai to know where this is going.
Okay.
See, now you guys got to pick it up so you can know what happens, right? I know how to sell these things.
I don't know if that's really the response, but okay.
Well.
Okay, so yeah, it's a good first issue. It's definitely got me interested in, like, what? We ended that comic. I'm like, what? So bring on the second one.
It's definitely a solid twist.
Yeah, it's got a really good twist. I was like, wow.
It's real Black Ops twist, and you're like, oh damn! But I'm not left going. How could that character do that? I'm left thinking, why did that character do that?
Exactly.
Because we're not dealing with squeaky clean types here, who a betrayal would particularly shock you by. You know, we're dealing with dirty people who will do the dirty things and the bad things in the name of some greater good. And I'm like, and this is exactly, of course, everything that the other characters are worried about with this whole mind wipe process. And the pieces are definitely in place for some interesting stuff to spill out of this. I would give it. Nick Spencer's first go round with the Secret Avengers was not great, but it was part of Fear itself. So, aside from giant robots, Stone Lincoln, Nazi Puncher. But this is a good start. Yeah.
I think of all the Avengers of the Marvel now, this is probably the best first issue, in my opinion, out of all the new Avengers titles. For the first issue, this was the best one.
It's certainly
the
a
new
better
Avengers
issue than New Avengers.
Yeah, I did not care for New Avengers because I didn't think that's where they were headed down. The second issue.
The second issue.
Yeah. For
Oh,
the
and
first
that
issue.
third issue.
Yes. Guys aren't reading New Avengers. You gotta read it. It's good.
Yeah.
Damn. JD, you're what was that you tweeted earlier today, JD?
Just about New Avengers and saying
That you were
it was
really
awesome.
glad you were reading.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm reading it now. Yeah.
Who was it told you to do that? Was it
Yeah, it's probably you, sir, because that's what
some
you
guy?
do. Yeah. You tell me to read all the good stuff. That's basically,
That's good stuff. So serious.
That's what.
Another one that I want to talk about. Oh, sorry.
No.
Okay, another one I want to talk about is another new. Well, it's a new number one, but it's basing off of a previous story. It's the new Ghostbusters. This is number one. If you guys haven't been reading Ghostbusters, you really are missing out. It's a really fun story.
Ghostbusters just before the show.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, here is your stepping on point right here. The 4 Ghostbusters that you know and love have been pretty much kidnapped by entities of themselves and taken into limbo. So they're having to hire or get new Ghostbusters, as the title is. And all these new Ghostbusters have had a relationship with the older ones. Of course, the first one that's going to be in here is Janine. Everyone knows Janine.
Hey, Janine.
Yeah. Ghostbusters, what you want?
Oh, man.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
I love Janine. I can't wait to see him more in this. So, they also have Kylie Griffin, who's been actually working in Ray's bookshop. She's the one that does all the research and studying, and she's a very gothic girl. There's also a special agent.
She's from the Extreme Ghostbusters cartoon, Kylie.
I love her. She is so much fun, too. She doesn't make an appearance too much in the comics, but when she does, she's just awesome. So, next one we have is Melanie Ortiz. Sorry. She was with Peter when they went to New Mexico. When he had an assignment in New Mexico, and he met up with her, and he said if she's ever in town, he'll take her out to dinner. He owes her a dinner. Well, she comes to New York, and so she actually sees Peter get kidnapped by his entity ghost. So she gets involved. And then also there is Ron Alexander. He's one of the ones that crap, I can't remember their names now. He was on another Ghostbusters team that tried to outdo the Ghostbusters. Okay, This is driving me nuts. I can't remember the team's name. Anyway, he was arrested and he's put in like a minimum security jail, but he's getting out to help with this team. At first they thought it was the publicity was good because it was an all-girls team, but they didn't have a mechanic. They didn't have anyone to know who to fix the machines, and so they made a deal with the government to get him out to help them with their team. So basically, what a really good one-shot, starting point, here you go. Because it is the new Ghostbusters, and if you want something really fun to do with this comic, if you're a fan of Ghostbusters 2, there's a lot of little hints of Ghostbuster 2 in the panels. So you've got like a video game of Ghostbusters 2. You've got the portrait of Vigo in here. You've got just like Vigo. So because it's the new Ghostbusters, so it's the new Ghostbusters. So you got all these hints of the Ghostbusters 2 movie in here. That's really fun.
I gotta be honest, I am seriously thinking about checking out this IDW ongoing Ghostbusters series because I had the misfortune to read their very first Ghostbusters miniseries, Displaced Aggression, which I have on good authority from the biggest Ghostbusters fan I know is the single worst Ghostbusters story ever put to print or film.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's Dr. Spangler over at the Allspark boards, or Mark Pellegrini. If you Google it, I'm sure you can find his extensive review of it. It is truly foul, and I never touched an IDW Ghostbusters book again after that.
Really?
They did a second miniseries that I didn't read, which I understand was only marginally better and still dreadful. But then Shoning's ongoing series kicked up, and you've constantly talked good about it, and it prompted me to go off and read up a bit about it. Well, no, I haven't read about any of the stories because your good talk about it made me interested enough to think I might try it out someday, so I didn't want to read any spoilers or anything. But all the other reviews I've seen for it have been very positive ones, and I'm genuinely thinking about maybe if they put out an omnibus collection of the first, because this was originally supposed to be like issue 17 or something, I believe. This just follows on directly from where the ongoing series left off.
Yeah, it's either 17 or 18. Yeah.
So they put out some kind of collection of the first batch.
And this is the same artist and colorist that I recommended as best of the year, because the art in here is so much fun and the colors just explode off the page and you just get so involved. And I don't think they've actually changed them since the reboot with the Ghostbusters, because their style hasn't really changed a whole lot. I mean, when the four are in limbo, all these pretty colors and stars and darkness, it's just amazing. It's a good little comic. And they also have a little short at the end, which is going to be, I don't know how many parts it is, but it's an adventure with the real Ghostbusters on what it's like to actually be a ghost in the containment unit. How is life in the containment unit? What's it like? So there's a little short in there of that, and it's going to be continuing on. They're only going to do like 2 or 3 pages, so you're going to have to collect all of them to get the whole story. But it's really interesting. Have you ever thought what it would be like in there? So,
I am going to check this. I'll probably go back to the start of the ongoing, but I think I am going to check out some of the IDW Ghostbusters stuff at some point.
It's real fun. I really should talk more about Ghostbusters because it is really one of my favorites. So,
now my old trade stack is getting nice and low now. You could add a few more.
All right, time to stack it up again.
Yeah, and that's what do we get left here? I'm reading a Teen Titans omnibus, and after that there's 1, 2, 3. There's only 4 books left.
Oh, man.
Now, one of them is a huge omnibus, and one of them's an essential, but still.
Neat.
There's one thing that IDW and the Ghostbusters does better than anyone, and it's the little extras that they put in. Just like this one, they have like a little short, but before they have like children's drawings, they have like the secret files of different ghosts and the drawings. I mean, the extras that they put in here is worth the extra couple bucks to me, and they don't charge you more. So there you go, people.
Neat.
Go pick it up. Go read more Ghostbusters.
Sweet. Cool.
Yeah. All right, JD.
Yeah, I'm gonna go quickly through 2 here. So first thing I want to recommend is something from last week. I've talked about it occasionally. Seriously, you're missing out, folks. You got to read Earth 2. There is so much world building going on in this that it's in fact I would say it's a nice single book, pace to broadening a world that, had a few superheroes and now has very few. The interaction, the connections between them, where those stories are going. I mean, the title says it all about where we're starting to go with this, which is, this is the Tower of Fate prologue. The Man Who Was Scared. So, yeah, we're getting into, like, Dr. Fate, magic, Wotan, all kinds of cool stuff is happening here. We've got a nice big, government versus some of the new wonders. Sandman is in this. Adam. I mean, this is like classic characters. Sandman. Yeah, it's basically Sandman. I mean, they were introduced as the Sandmen, but there's basically one guy that leads up the group that's totally like
Wesley Dunn.
Yes, that's who it is actually. So yeah, I mean, and he's the totally Sandman, the classic Sandman with the gas mask thing. Yeah,
nice. He's a great design.
Yeah.
Have they messed it up?
No, it looks good.
Because it's the new 52, so I have to ask.
I mean, in this issue, he's sitting there with a fedora and the trench coat, over his like suit stuff. So no, I mean it's totally him, There's a little bit of hint that they've connected Khalid and Hawk Girl in this where they like got their powers at the same time. They never specifically mention like that it's Dr. Fate's helmet, but they mention like everything around it. They mention the helmet.
Naboo.
They mention Naboo. They mention what it does. How it works. There's also a scene of her like firing a rocket at a dummy with Green Lantern's shirt on. So. So again, that's why I said there's some
anti-gay violence.
I know, isn't it?
Orson Scott Card would approve.
Oh God, sir.
I went
I
there.
think we were done, but no. And then, it's just a lot of fun world building that's going on and very interesting stuff. If you're not reading Earth 2, you are missing out. Please read it. It is good stuff. I mean, it is nice to have something that's part of the 52 that is definitely characters and story that's been a part of DC, and yet it's all kind of starting fresh. It's like this is what New 52 should have been in a way, where it's like everything in this is starting new. You don't have a lot of characters with questionable backgrounds that you're trying to guess at what's new and what's not. It's like if it's a question of whether it's new or not, it's new. It's just like you're seeing it as it's happening. So it's nice.
Remind me who the creative team is on this now.
It's Robertson and Nicholas Scott on the art. When the art's great.
That's right. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, the art is great. So it's like I said, it's worth reading. Totally worth it. I think a lot of people are missing out on it. That's why I'm recommending it. Another book that I'll recommend, which is I'm very intrigued to see where this is going because it's taken a big twist at the end, is, of course, one of my standard favorites, is Scarlet Spider. At the beginning of this, Kane is sort of dead-ish, and there's a lot of...
Sort of. Well, he's been there before.
Yeah, he's used to it. But there's like this whole, like, sort of in his mind or in the afterworld conversation with, like, a priest, but, priest is like changing based on who it is. It ends up being more of like a spider entity that's sort of tempting him to sort of change and give in to the spider within. And so he's sort of left with a choice, and he makes a choice at the end that may change. It may change the direction of this book, actually. So I don't want to give it away, but yeah. I was not expecting the last page of this book. I'll put it that way.
I'll have to take a look at it.
I actually had to stare at that last panel for a while, like,
really? Yeah.
Yeah.
It is not something I was expecting out of this book.
No.
It's
not what you expect out of any Spider-Man comic, for what I know.
No, like I said, I don't know how I feel. It depends on how it's going to play out. But it definitely feels like a turning point for this book in terms of story, and even Kane talks about it, where he's trying to do this hero thing, and there's a lot of fighting your nature questions that go on in it. So,
well, because he's putting what's her name?
What is her name?
Yeah. He's putting her first before him, and that's really.
There is some complexity with that,
Yeah, it's true.
You make some sacrifices to do that too, So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Like I said, if you haven't been reading Scarlet Spider, I would pick up the issue before it, or at least the .1 before it. I think it's before. I think this is like 13.1 in this, so I'd recommend doing that. But I think you theoretically could start with this issue, but you're going to be missing a little bit of why who's chasing what. So,
yeah.
But those are my two real quick recommendations.
I think I picked it up at the right time. I picked it up on issue 12. So
that sounds about right, because that's the start of the wolf story. So, so that would
like me some werewolves.
If you can go 12, 13, and then this is 14, that would be the way to go. So there you go. There's two things you should be reading and aren't, and don't ignore me.
Hey!
Just because I'm me.
Hey!
Not you. See, you listened, but other people still have not listened to me and have not bought either Earth 2 or Scarlet Spider, but maybe.
I have 35 things on my poll list. I really honestly can't pick.
And I appreciate you helping, but I mean you, the listeners, should get these books. If you're going to get one of the two, probably get Earth 2. But
See?
you should try.
Reading him too.
You should try, Scarlet Spider as well. But if you're a DC thing and you like classic DC characters, you might try Earth 2. Anyway, okay, Chris McFeely, what do you got, sir? We're racing towards the end here. We're getting to Batman.
Well, it's not going to take long because I don't really have a lot. I just picked up a lot of. I didn't get anything new this week, and I didn't even read any interesting graphic novels to recommend this week. I just have to nod in the direction of the continuing quality of the series I'm reading already. Avengers Assemble number 12 came out this week. Kelly Sue DeConnick continuing her movie fun style version of the Avengers. Spider-Woman is still present in the team, though, so it's not full-on movie Avengers, the same way that the last arc wasn't quite full-on movie Avengers with Captain Marvel and Spider-Woman being part of it. But this is, I believe it's a 3-parter, and it's called, they've been trailing it with a title, but I'm just going to make sure the title is actually in the comic or not. I don't see no title in the comic, but it's been trailed as Widow's Ledger. And it's a story about the Black Widow. We get a little scene from her past carrying out an assassination and how she... Turns out basically that in order to make amends for all the evil things she did when she was on the side of the Pinkos, that she... what's the term she uses? She gave out markers, karmic markers, so that people that she had wronged or the relatives of people that she had killed could call upon her to do something for them, that she could karmically pay them back in some respect for what they did. And one of them gets called in this issue. But don't worry, it's not some miserable Cold War spy thing. Subterranean race of lizard men! Ah! Yeah, if you were expecting something, some dull Cold War Russian politics, don't worry, lizards everywhere. But Spider-Woman insists on coming along because she's not letting her... Because I had forgotten at this stage because it's been such a known thing, and you'd think it would come up over in Hawkeye's own book, the fact that he and Spider-Woman are actually an item. So she's not entirely keen with letting Hawkeye go off with Black Widow on their own somewhere. So she insists on coming along as well, and that's where the rather... I'm not going to say trademark humor, but the standout humor that DeConnick has brought to this book really comes from in this issue. It's a smaller cast than the last one, but it proves that, it's so much better than I ever had any right to think this book would possibly be, and it's a great jumping on point, and it's even more accessible for movie readers than her previous arc was, I think. Purely just from the Black Widow and it's the two cool spy characters from the movies, and who are also getting the spotlight, of course, over in Secret Avengers this week as well. It's heavy on the spy stuff this week on the Avengers family. What else do I have going on this week? Fantastic Four was also out this week, which continues on the thing I pointed out last week, the strange done-in-one John Burnishness of Matt Fraction's Fantastic Four, where they travel to another planet, interspersed with flashbacks to Reed and Sue's first meeting. They travel to another planet where a mural of the Fantastic Four has been painted on the wall of a cavern beneath this planet, and they've essentially become this world's gods. It's been there for thousands, if not millions of years, and they have become like holy figures to these aliens, and it's not even really a question of you do find out how it happened by the end of the thing, but it's not really a story about exploring the mystery. It's just about exploring the characters' emotions in the scenario they find themselves in. And it's nice to just have them run into a quite nice race of aliens. Spoilers, but the aliens don't turn out to be insane zealots who try to kill them for impersonating their gods, or one of those nice utopian situations that worships you as a god and then everything goes wrong because of all of the evil stuff that secretly happens behind closed doors that you see in fiction all the time. No, they're just a bunch of really nice, kind of sort of snake-looking alien dudes. And the story is really about Reed and Sue.
Huh.
I'm not entirely sure. Reed himself says the ethics of the situation are deplorable, so at least it's addressing that. But I'm kind of worried about Reed's mental state. I'm also thinking Fraction does not quite have the things voiced down right.
Uh-oh.
You know, the attitudes are there, but the voice is not quite right. I'm not sure why they're doing this thing where the thing always speaks in bold type. You know, that's distracting to me. But he goes a little too heavy with the phonetic Brooklyn accent. You know, dare, dat. You know, D's instead of THs. And I'm like, don't do that. That's not Ben. Don't do
like,
that.
No.
Pull it back.
No.
You know, you really showed me you had the idea for the character with the bellowing out his last will and testament, and of course he's exploring. It's well trod ground at this stage, but that's the thing about the Fantastic Four is no matter how well trod, and comics in general, no matter how well trod a piece of ground, there's always someone who'll go back to it. Fantastic Four tend to suffer from it a little more, I think, because the conflicts in the group tend to really define them, and of course it was the thing that distinguished the characters out of the gate back in the 60s. So when new writers come on to Fantastic Four, even though previous writers will have tackled these conflicts within the group and the things that define them, and notionally have put them to bed, have made the characters make peace with this, that, or the other, gone through a thing where a character has felt a certain way for the umpteenth time, the next writer will always bail them out again. So we've kind of got the thing going on here with Ben and Fractions.
No, I want to get my spin on that thing, though.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of it. I mean, because they are not viewed as arcs that the characters go through, and they're not viewed as the work of one writer who took a character and guided them through an emotional experience or a character arc. They're viewed as intrinsic parts of what make the characters who they are, because they were such standout elements that distinguished the Fantastic Four from the rest of superherodom and began the birth of the Marvel Age of Comics back in the 60s. So these are character conflicts that are never likely to go away. You know, they hadn't really been at the fore until Mark Waid came to the Fantastic Four, which is it's over 10 years ago now at this stage. It must be. I think it must be about 10 years ago. Because I remember a lot of people were going, oh, look at the characters acting in ways that they haven't acted for in years, because these were all things that had been settled and put to bed. But since Waid, that's just the way, it's like these are parts of them that every writer wants to do, and what we're getting like with this is Ben not really feeling like he's a member of the family, because he's not blood, you know. So he feels like maybe coming on the mission with everyone else was a mistake, and I'm sure we'll get the story where it's like, Ben, no, your family are always part of the family, as always goes with these things. But I don't think it would really be a Fantastic Four story without these elements.
No, is this number 4?
It is number 4.
Is that issue 4?
It is 4, yes. Issue number 4.
Fantastic Four, number 4, people.
Or number 4. Yeah, there's nothing like weird or outstanding about it in that regard. Sometimes I remember back when they relaunched the series in the late 90s, when they did issue 4, it was double-sized because why not? But no, just another issue of Fantastic Four. But Tricky makes a point in the chat here as well. I feel like I'm reading Fantastic Four today to enjoy the story 4 months from now, because things are happening that we're not seeing. And he's not wrong, but I'm not sure how much of that is a lingering effect from the Hickman days at the same time, where I'm expecting. So, I mean, Franklin is already, from the first issue, is having dreams of something bad that is going to happen down the line, you know, and his discontent with their situation, Sue is starting to detect it, and Reed is really wanting to tell her these things, and his love for her and his desire to keep her safe is conflicting with that. And that's what forms the emotional core of this story. And it's kind of taking Reed down an odd path. And it's like I say, it's like after Hickman's thing, in which it was all about Reed. And it was about him coming to learn the importance of his family and how he needs to keep them close, and the significance of them, like on a multiversal scale, and what makes him unique among all the Reeds. This is not the sort of story we should really be going into right off the back of it, but this is just Fantastic Four for you. I mean, Tricky says just also in the chat as well that this has to fold into FF at some point. That's FF, the other series, FF. And, I mean, FF number 3 I haven't talked about on the show. It's presented us with a Johnny in issue 3 of FF has shown, allegedly, Johnny coming back from years in the future, claiming the Fantastic Four have been killed at the hands of Doom the Annihilating Conqueror, some hideous fused version of Doctor Doom, Annihilus, and Kang the Conqueror, which I'm guessing is probably not real, but I don't know what's going on over in FF because it's really quirky and fun. And I don't know how separate the books are going to be, but I'm looking forward to finding out anyway, because Fraction is really I've said it before, I was really worried about Fantastic Four with Hickman leaving. I was one of those situations like we were talking about with Jeff Johns leaving Green Lantern. It's hard for me to imagine somebody just slipping in and taking over, but Fraction, and certainly when I heard it was Fraction after what we've had out of Fraction the last year or two, but he has really pulled the socks up, and he's delivering the sorts of stories that are keeping me very interested on Fantastic Four. So I think that'll do me for this week.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, I'm okay.
Rock on.
I left it. I'm good.
But you're sticking with FF, right?
No. I just... I'm good.
You left FF too?
Yeah. It's okay.
He sticks with Earth too.
But it's you know what? All right.
Yes.
That brings us then
Batman.
to Batman 17.
Batman, you say?
Which I will take, since Chris McFeely did so much talking last week.
Yes,
I will go through this, as it's yet again another opportunity for me to do my Joker voice, which I probably should stop doing. It's not very good, I guess. So I don't know. Maybe it is.
Creeps me out.
Creeps people out, I guess. So there may be a couple opportunities to do it here. Okay, so when we last left, Batman was like...
When we last left our hero.
When we last left the dynamic duo, they were stuck in a tower filled with mites. So Batman basically got captured by Joker, and we're still wondering what the fuck is under that the dinner platter things, and oh god.
Because at this point, between the last issue of Batman and this issue, last month's issues of Batgirl, Nightwing, Red Hood, Batman and Robin, and Teen Titans all ended with Dick, Damian, Jason, Barbara, and Tim being captured by the Joker and presented with these platters.
You know, this issue is called The Punchline. And as we're going to talk about this, that's a pretty damned apt title for this book. And I in some ways, what Snyder has done here is sort of brilliant, and in other ways, I think it should piss you off.
Yeah.
I think that would be like a good response. But there's some brilliant stuff in here too. And not saying that it's not brilliant that he's pissed you off, but there's definitely some moments where you're just like, you're all on edge, and you're like, ugh. So here's the first one. Where there's a whole like prologue here where this is sort of like the play on Batman seeing the bat, except it's like a skeletal bat. And, Joker's, there's some discussion. Anyway, we get to the dinner table, which is the important part. And we see all of the rest of the family is seated around the table with their platters and hoods on, and they're all tied up to the table. And yes, at this point, as the Joker mentions, he mentions, like, you smell anything? And he's like, gasoline? Yep, because Joker's rigged the table. So, like, Batman can't get up, because if he gets up, he's going to ignite the gasoline, and basically everybody's going to burn to death. So he can't just get up and leave. And so we get to this moment, and we're waiting, and Joker is, like, talking about Alfred, because then the question becomes, where's Alfred? And and so you're like, oh God! Oh! And Batman's like, where is he? It's like, oh, he's around.
That's so sweet.
And ready for service. Hey, Alfred, come on out, would you? And Alfred comes out from a cave, and you're like, what?
Son of a bitch. I mean, I love that because it's clear that Snyder knew what everyone was going to. This is what people were already thinking was in the platters, you know?
Oh yeah, we were talking about it. I mean,
yeah,
we talked about it for a month.
I think Triplet said if it was that, he was out.
Yeah, you know.
And I think it would have been out as well. But it knew what you thought it was, and it messed with you.
It did. It was like, and so there's your there's your first punchline. You know, it's like, nope, here it comes. All right, you know, and he's screwed up looking,
yeah.
but you know, he's alive. So there you go. So, and even Batman says what we think, which is like, oh, thank God. So now we're ready for dinner service. And we're finally getting to this moment where it's like, well, if Alfred's not under the platters, then what is?
Yeah.
And they pull off everybody's mask at the same time, and you see bandaged and bloody faces. And it's like suddenly worse, almost, than you thought it could be, because under the platters are the faces. In ice.
Couldn't believe it.
I my mind raced. Like, I'm like, what the, how are they gonna, what are they gonna do?
You see how it's so crafty in that they're sitting perfectly, they're not just crudely sliced off the way the Joker's was. They're very neatly sliced off and pretty much unharmed. And they're in buckets of ice. So the first thing that the comic tricks your brain into thinking is, they're okay. It's still good.
Okay.
It's still good. They can put them back on.
They put it back on. They put the faces back on.
They're just a little face off. It's still good. It's still good.
It's still fine. It's gonna be okay. And
okay. Just before you go, this little splash page right here, it's like the perfect little thing for Valentine's this week.
yeah, it's like a nice little heart.
You got their faces in a heart, and you got the Joker cuddling a little baby cub, lion cub, and it's the cutest thing.
Yeah, and he's like,
baby.
I so hope you like it, everyone. I made it with lots of love.
Yeah.
Oh God! So there's a lot of back and forth.
Joker. He's insane. I love it.
How could you? How? It was easy, Bats. Just a slice, pull, chill, and serve. A 30-minute recipe. They came off so easy too. It's nothing beneath these pretty faces, after all. They're not like you and me, you see, not under the skin. Anyway, love it. So, we get into this age-old discussion, though, again. I mean, talking about writers rehashing things that have been talked about and dealt with over and over and over again, it's like, oh, yes, it's the age-old question of why Batman can't kill the Joker. And that's pretty much exactly what this is. It's just a discussion, again, between the Batman and Joker about why they can't. And Joker's supposition is that, you know, some of it is that Batman feels he couldn't stop. You know, like if he did the Joker, he couldn't stop. And Joker's like, you know, he could just do it in quiet, somewhere away from everyone, and no one would know, you know. But yeah, so I mean which is kind of disappointing that becomes the thrust of it. And Joker, even though presents like this book that he's saying is, what is it he's trying to say is in the book? I didn't quite
know
understand
what is really going on with that book. You know, because I mean, I thought immediately when he first mentioned the book that this was supposed to be the book from The Return of Bruce Wayne.
Yes,
the little leather-bound book that contained all of Batman's secrets. But it doesn't seem like it is supposed to be. Certainly not. I mean, when you get to the very end of the story,
right?
And it's not. So I mean, he's making it. He's trying to make it sound like Batman has written all this stuff down for him, and this was how he got the. It's like he's trying. I think it sounds like he's trying to turn the others against Batman.
And yes, and that would be the indication. And of course, because he says it's the backward map, you know, hit list. And so he presents Batman with an impossible choice. Either he's going to light everybody on fire, or Batman can do it. So Batman does it. And he told Batman that by the end of the whole thing, he was going to kill everybody. That Batman would be the one to kill everybody. And so, by all indications, there it is. He stands up, big burst of flames. Everything's on fire, including the faces.
Ah, the faces.
Ah, the faces. And except one problem, though, as Batman mentions, he kind of knows the cave system better than the Joker. So he unleashes a torrent of water and basically puts everybody out, which completely foils Batman fans or Joker's plan. But how about the moment, though?
But Joker has more than just one trick up his sleeve, though.
I love this. He's like, "What are you? That's not funny." So Batman, this little moment here though is a little bit of like, oh, for a couple of reasons, because he's like he runs over to Damian first, and he pulls off the bandages, and Damian is almost frantic. Where he's like, "Is it bad? Tell me, can I take it?" And my face is numb, and he embraces Damian face towards the audience, and you can see his face is fine. So there's your second trick. Where
as much as I hate Damian, I really like that panel.
It's a great panel, but it's also like, damn you, Joker, you got us again, and Snyder, for that matter. So they're like, okay, we'll take care of Alfred, Bruce, you go get Joker, and then of course there's the little cub. And in something sort of pulled from the movie, the second Dark Knight movie, the little cub has this like knot on its head.
Yeah.
And you're like looking at it, and then you can see the stitches around it, and it's like a light under the skin. It's like, poof.
That was a very disturbing panel.
Yeah.
This is the second week I've had to see a kitty die.
Yeah. But it basically covers everybody in really bad Joker juju gas.
Joker juju.
I don't know.
It'll
Anyway,
do.
I don't know. Anyway, so, again, we get into our climactic battle between Bruce and Joker. And I love that the Joker tries to refer to it as a dance. And Bruce is like, no more dances. Just the quarrel.
Wait! I'm thinking after this, did Joker just miss prom? Is that why he's so honored with life? He just wanted to go to prom. He made it to prom when everything's been.
I think it's fitting that before all this started, we had a discussion, like the beginning of this, about Harley Quinn, like whether or not you should feel sorry, for Harley Quinn and all of this. And Chris McFeely aptly pointed out that the only way the Joker would ever get a hard-on for Harley is if she wore a bat suit. And I think that is pretty much typified in this entire storyline, that Joker really has this perverse love for Batman. And, you'd have to dig into the psychology of it, but, man, yeah. So, I don't know. Bruce hits him with a tire iron as well. So, everybody's hitting Joker with a tire iron these days. It's just a thing to do.
That's a thing.
So, but again, it's this apparent, that the Joker is really seeing one of Bruce's strengths is the family, and that really the point of this, I think, from the Joker's perspective, was to try to separate Bruce from the family, because just in the same way it's a strength, he sees it as a weakness, because the Joker wants to be the number one thing for Batman. He doesn't want the family to be of importance. He wants him to be of importance. And Batman is saying, Joker's trying to tell him, he's like, you need to go back and get them. They're going to kill each other if you don't, get them. And he's like, no, I have faith in them that they'll figure it out. He's like, well, you shouldn't. They're not your family. They're killing you, They make me stronger. Liar! They don't make you anything, but you know what, Bats? Maybe I was wrong about you. Maybe your true face hasn't changed. Let's see. and like squirts him with the acid, which is so classic in a way, but yet like, wow, not what I was expecting. And yet we see the chasm below the caves as well, the deep water-drenched chasm below the caves, and you know, Batman talks about Joker almost falls off, and Batman grabs him, and it's not like to save him, but he's like, no, if you die tonight, it's not going to be by accident. At least that's his intention. And there's a hint here that Batman does know who the Joker is. It seems to be an indication anyway. You know, we had wondered if this was it. Now I'm trying to remember if we had the conversation or I had the conversation with someone in my shop.
I don't think it was on the show.
That we would discuss, like, you know, maybe they were going to retcon in that, you know, go back to like the first movie series and say that the Joker was actually the one that killed his parents. That, like I said, I think that was a conversation I had at my shop. It didn't feel that way, but it certainly does seem that there's an indication that he knows. So sure enough, the family is able to stop themselves. But I love this panel the more I think about it. You see the Joker use his electric door buzzer to shock Bruce in the face, which makes him let him go. And he falls. And you see in, like, this is where... this is, like, the best fucking panel I've ever seen. Like, I want this on my wall. And the reason it's brilliant is because you see the Joker's face as it's falling and falls away from it. It falls off, and it's falling down the chasm. And through the eye of the face, you can see Bruce standing at the top. Well, what's the line? You know, what's the quote that gets associated with Batman, you know, being in the cave, that you look into the abyss and the abyss looks back. And this just invokes that feeling, you know, of like the Joker is the abyss looking back at Batman. And so in the same moment where it's like Snyder has rehashed something that's been done a brillion times, in a panel that's not even words, he's made a very interesting argument for, you know, what the Joker is and what the Joker represents to Batman, in the sense that it is the abyss looking back at him. You know, and how he deals with that. So, the denouement here is really interesting, though. We do see that Bruce gets the book, and it's blank, completely blank. There's nothing in it. So, there's yet another punchline from the Joker presented to us. Alfred's fine. He's recovering the next morning, and Bruce tells him that he's assembling the family to sort of debrief and talk through everything that's happened. But he also tells Alfred... a story about he went to Arkham shortly after the card was left at the cave, and he actually presented it to the Joker as Bruce, and the Joker seemed completely uninterested. Either the Joker didn't recognize it, or he just didn't care. You know, there's some sort of... It's a little vague. I don't know that I quite understood what he was trying to say.
Well, it's kind of, it's open. You know?
That's what I'm saying. I think it's a little open to interpretation in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, you know, Bruce says that he was thinking about why he had refused to kill him, and it doesn't have as much to do what he stood for. But it's like, if he did, it's not that he didn't kill the Joker because he was afraid of what it would do to him, but what Gotham would do to him. You know, and again, we have this sense of Gotham as a character, Gotham as an entity within the story, and Bruce's fear that if he did kill the Joker, that Gotham would send something even worse after him. Or even worse than that, send the Joker back. You know, the Joker would then return. So it was much more about what he feels the universe would do to him rather than, you know, what it would do to him. Very interesting take, but of course Alfred's like, oh, well, it's over now, he's gone. Like, any of us
really?
believe that.
How many times have you been through this at this
Yeah.
stage, Alfred?
And then Bruce gets a series of text messages from everybody bailing on him.
Ugh.
Everybody bails on him. And so in the final moment, he had found an isotope in with the chemical that the Joker had used. And, it used, what is it, dubnium, which also was known as honium, and its chemical symbol was AH. And again,
HA.
I'm sorry, HA. Sorry. Yes.
Ha!
Ah!
Ha!
Dyslexia. Anyway,
Yeah, he's not Dracula.
Ha. And so the last panel again. I mean, I love Snyder's ability to use, but also Capullo's way of letting the art tell the story. But that's Snyder too. You just leave the dialogue out, and it's just like you have this beautiful blast panel of zooming closer and closer into the HA and the fly, which has sort of become like a Joker symbol now. With this story, it's sort of become a symbol of the Joker as well. So that's
the fly was on him a few times.
Yeah, and that's been there, but now it's kind of like a new thing. It's like the festering flies are like a new thing, a new Joker thing. So, so what do you think? I mean, what do we think about this? In whole.
I would say I think you missed one thing there.
Oh.
I don't remember on which page it is specifically, but it's at the end after it's all over and done with. Bruce walks past the Bat computer with the Joker file sitting open on it, and it specifically says the identity of the Joker is unsolved, and that Bruce didn't know what he told the Joker.
Yeah.
Like, it was Bruce won with a joke, with a trick.
Yeah, because he was saying he didn't know, and yeah. So, I don't know. So, what do you think? What do you all think? I mean, how did you all feel about this ending to the death of the family?
I thought it pulled itself back into a much more sort of standard Batman Joker confrontation ending than I was. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting from it, but something. I mean, it's like I mean, first of all, I don't think Snyder's going to be very bothered about writing any more Joker stories for the length of time that he's on Batman.
Yeah.
I think that's his Joker story.
Yeah.
Told out of the way now. I mean, I don't know where you even go. I don't envy the writer who has to use the Joker next to follow this act. Like, even just, reverting the Joker by, because we all know it'll happen sooner or later. We've had this discussion in recent months about the immutability of certain elements of comics, and the Joker's never going to stay this way, and I don't know, it's not like Snyder even tries to put the toys back in the pen or anything. I was a little surprised he didn't try to kill the Joker with more permanence, to be honest, because, that's kind of like the logical ending to all of this, is that the Joker's got to die for everything he does in the course of this story, but the Joker falls off things all the time.
Even the dialogue was pointing in that direction. Do you, do you think there was an editorial?
No, probably not.
I
don't think any writer is ignorant enough to think that they could kill the Joker. So I don't think he ever really thought. I can't imagine anybody would have the ego to think they could be the guy to kill the Joker.
Yeah. I think, and I agree with you on the point, because I think that was how I felt too, where it was like, it felt like there was, and maybe it was just the PR around it, but it felt like this was meant to be, like this was supposed to be this pinnacle, big, shocking event, and it really just kind of turned out to be a Joker story, really just a not completely standard, but a fairly standard Joker story. Nobody died, nobody got really permanently hurt.
See, that's my disappointment right there. It's called Death in the Family. No one died.
It does kind of feel like, it's like we talk about, like,
of the family. The idea is supposed to be that the family's
split and
shattered after this. Yeah.
I think my problem is I read Batgirl before this, so I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done that.
Shouldn't have done that.
I'm just like, well, I know for a fact where Barbara stands with the story. That was my problem.
Well, and I think we all knew that. We knew that's even where like the face thing came in. It's like, how are they going to fix it? Oh, they didn't mess it up. And that's where it's like the punchline thing is apt because it really is just a series of sort of. It's like the joke was on you. You thought this was big. It's not so big. It's fun and all, but well, I mean, in the sense that it's like, oh, you think Alfred's gonna die? No, not really. Oh, you think we cut all their faces off? No, not really. So that's where I say it's a little bit of play on that. I was really shocked by how simple it really turned out to be, in a way, for all the build up, for everything that happened, for all the playthrough, for all the interaction and connection. It really ended up just being the why can't Batman kill Joker, throw him off a tall thing. Is that wrong? Like, is that wrong? Is like, am I weird to be shocked by that?
Wait, let's take bets. How long until we see the Joker's back?
I think Chris is right.
I don't think Snyder's going to bring him back.
Not anytime soon.
No.
I know Snyder seems really excited about the next arc, so he's been talking it up for a couple months. So I'm really interested to see what that is. I don't know. I think it is like his Joker story. It feels like a good cap. It feels like the cap on it. But man, I was really expecting it to go more off the rails. It was more off the rails in like the previous issue than this. It was horse punching, a lot of animal injuries in this entire story.
Like I said, PETA.
A lot of horrible animals.
Yeah.
Poor horses.
Poor horses, cat,
and poor little
mutated cats,
lion cub.
Oh, that lion was in on it.
So,
are you saying the lion was lying?
Nah.
So
related to the lion cat?
Yeah, I fully expect that the next time we see Joker, his face will be fixed. So
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I still think this is probably destined to go down as one of the great Joker stories.
Sure. Yeah. Just in terms of the breadth of it, you know what I mean? Like it was really epic.
The personal nature.
The breadth of the Joker? Ugh. Can't imagine what that smells like.
Never mind. Anyway. I probably won't get to do my Joker voice again, so sorry about that.
Well, we've enjoyed it up till now.
Okay, so as long as I freak
people... We all gotta do voices this time around. I gotta do my Janine.
We all gotta do voices, so... as long as it's freaked people out, then I guess that it's done its job. So I'll be auditioning for the next major Joker role. Not really. No, not doing that. So.
But one, I think it's definitely destined to go down as one of the great Joker stories alongside things like Death in the Family and The Killing Joke and Arkham Asylum. It goes to, I mean, the fact that it is a very standard Joker story ending, I'm not sure if it's a strike against it. It's certainly not anything that would keep it off a list of great Joker stories, because, tons of them do have the standard Joker ending.
True.
But it does seem like it's going somewhere different for a large part of it. But it's very, very hard to imagine how they would ever convincingly have gotten away with any kind of ending other than this one, as much as the story seemed like it demanded one.
Yeah. And like I said, it's totally worth it to have like that Joker face image at the end, which was... admittedly really awesome, It's like any of the stuff that's kind of making you think and look at it, I like that. So,
well, the way DC's headed right now, we can probably expect an animated version of this in a few years' time.
Sure. I mean, easy. We'll see the, death of the family, the face off. Ugh. I don't want
Batman the Joker face off. That's just what it'll be called.
Oh God. It's so. Like, I have a hard time looking at it on the page. I can't imagine trying to watch it even in an animated movie, It's, and
I would be so enthralled with it. I'd be like, yeah, this is good.
And Capullo is so good because you can even see, like, the muscle structure, the tendons under the face. Like the white
the
tendon.
Art in the series is...
Capullo's so good. I mean, it's really his.
Awesome.
It's one of those things where I love a comic when it is a really good blend of both the writing and the art, and their work just typifies that, where it's
they've really got it going on right now. I mean, DC in particular is a company that has, even before the New 52, but it's true post New 52 as well, that has struggled to have creative teams. Like, even the books that manage to keep the same creators around for a while usually just manage to keep the same writer around for a while, and then the artists who can't meet the monthly schedule bounce in and out, like with Action Comics, which we've had a complete hodgepodge of artists there. Even over on Dial H, which is one of the few other books DC's publishing where it feels like the writer, the creator, is actually driving the thing and not editorial. The artists have not been consistent there. I believe Doug Mankey's been pretty consistent over with Jeff Johns on Green Lantern. But Capullo and Snyder are definitely like they're actually a creative team and not a writer and his rotating stable of guys who can't do the work they're paid to do for on time.
Yeah, and that makes the book like that much better. It's like when you have a writer and an artist that can really kind of work in sync and work in harmony like that. It really makes a book. That's when you've got something special, and I feel like that's what we've got here. This is something special. Enjoy this time, readers. It's like it is not often that you can get a book, with a writer and artist that can really sync up this well. It's one of the reasons I think that I'm looking forward to finally getting to read Leaving Megalopolis this year. When that comes out from Gail Simone and John, I can't remember his last name at the moment, and that bugs me because I get emails from him like every week that did the art on Secret Six. It starts with a C, I think. Anyway, because they have that.
Jim Calafiore?
Jim, yes, Jim Calafiore. Thank you. Yes, because they have that. Like they had that kind of sync. Where it's like the art and the write and just it all comes together and it feels so good, and so I'm looking forward to that as well. I get emails on that like every week now. It's very exciting. Can't wait. Anyway, so there you go. Batman 17, Death of the Family. Not really. Well, yes, in a metaphorical sense, but not.
We'll see how they're doing next month.
Not a concrete sense. Yeah, It does seem to think that, if the Joker's intent was to separate Roost from the family, he might have succeeded at that, It's one of those deals where it's like you lose and you still win. So we shall see. So there it is. There you go. That's the show.
Yay.
We did it.
We did it.
Yay.
We did it under 2 hours. Woohoo!
Yay! With the three of us. That's okay. This was good stuff. Even though it may have been a light week, there was still some good stuff. So, yeah. So, trying to think if there's anything I should mention other than the usual. Not that I can think of. So I will just tell you to go to the website, fanboyversus.com. You can get all of our past shows there. You can get links to the current episodes, YouTube videos, all that good happy stuff. Go and follow us on Twitter. We will usually live tweet as we're doing the show. So if you'd like to follow along with that, you can do that. Twitter is at FanboyVS. The live show, we record this every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. GMT. And you can get that at tfradio.net/live. Tune in on Ustream. And you will get us live talking, and just like you heard in this show, we interact with our live audience as much as possible and try to get their ideas, and especially when we're having a good discussion. So
but we had a good discussion this week.
Yeah, so that's why I say.
Thanks for contributing, listeners.
Yeah, so thanks so much for tuning in. If you want to be part of that, come on back next week. We'll be here, and they'll be here, hopefully, and you can join in on the fun. And even if we don't mention it on the show, you can still have good discussion about comics. Because where else are you going to do that? By yourself in your mom's basement? I don't think so. You can be by yourself in your mom's basement in our chat room talking about comics. Come on. Do that. So, yes. And you should also listen to all the other cool shows that we have. So you just go to tfradio.net and find out all the other cool shows that are on the TF Radio Network. And because some of those are fun as well. I do a couple of them because I have no life. So because I hate myself, I do those other shows and let it take up most of my time. So yes. So so that's our shows. I want to thank Chris McFeely, Nicole Hale for being here. I wish Chris Triplett the best of luck in his future life as a Tibetan monk. And maybe he'll learn some cool kung fu and bring it back for us when he comes back. Hopefully next week. It's cold up there, I don't think he's going to want to... I don't see him staying there too long. So anyway. So for us, for everyone here, thanks so much for tuning in. And please tune in next time when it'll be Fanboy Versus...
This has been Fanboy Versus. Visit us at tfradio.net for show notes and to subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on Twitter at tfradio for news and updates. Like the podcast? Leave us feedback on iTunes. Copyright 2011 Radio Free Cybertron.